We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Friday FARcast. This is Robert Phoenix back on the airwaves again after a week away. And I've been moving. And it's been one of the most difficult moves I've ever made. By the way, if you hear a dog barking in the background, don't worry about it. He's my new co-host, apparently. I have a dog that lives below me who barks a lot. And especially in the morning. Oh, how sweet it is to have the dulcet tones of a hunting hound barking and howling at the crack of dawn. Why? Because he wants to go out and chase some birds. That's why. The birds are chirping, and that hunting dog wants to get him some bird. But what's he doing? He's caged up, curled up in a ball in the bedroom below me, probably in some hair-covered doggy bed. I might start a free the dog movement here in my apartment complex. Maybe I can get a T-shirt going. I got to find out his name though. Free. I'll have the T-shirt and free blankety blank on it. The dog needs a bigger home. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. How is everybody? How is everybody doing with the Cardinal Cross? These energies are very intense. I have Mars on my moon, squaring my Saturn. Grrr, grrr. Intense. I'm telling you, this move was, moving across the country was easier than moving a couple thousand feet. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why this one was harder. So last Friday, which is when the move started, I got some movers. They were good. These guys busted their butt. They moved my TV when they're not supposed to be moving TVs without boxes, and I've got a 50-inch plasma. So they went against the rules of their employer, and they got my TV here, which is great. Thank you very much. And they got all the big stuff. All the big stuff. All my CDs, my couch, my bedroom stuff, my bed. They got it all, right? So I bow in gratitude to the movers for that. I was not screwed over. And have you ever been screwed over by a mover? I have. It is not fun. It is one of the worst experiences one can have because, you know, these transitions are critical in one's life, and you trust people to help you. And I had some shady movers in Southern California one time just completely F us over. So these guys were good, but it wasn't that was probably the high point of the move. So while I'm moving, I have a life to attend to. I have a baseball team that I have to work with. Luckily, we didn't have a lot going on. We had some practices this week. There were no games this weekend, but there was a game with my son and his select baseball team on Saturday. So I had to go to that game. And then, of course, it's an all-day affair, and my face got burned. My face was just completely red because I didn't wear a hat. I was having a good hair day. I said, why waste a good hair day? Why waste a good hair day with a hat? Famous last words. After that day, my face was so red, burned. I mean burned, almost like clinically burned, like going to the hospital kind of burned. I had no idea that the spring South Central Texas sun would be that brutal. Where are the chemtrails when you need them, right? Where are the goddamn chemtrails when I needed them that day to shield my face from the hostile sun? You know what's interesting about my son is that he doesn't burn. He doesn't burn. That kid's got melanin in him, man. He's got some melanin in him. He doesn't burn. He looked like a little Samoan baby when he was born, by the way. He did. He had dark hair, he had a big wide nose, he had dark skin. So I was scratching my head for a while saying, am I really the father of this kid? He doesn't look like me. But after a while, the Nordic genes kicked in, and whatever other history, prehistory he brought into his life form became recessive. So now he's a blonde-haired, freckle-faced, Celtic Viking boy. But he doesn't burn. Anyway, so now I've got a burned face. And after the game, I didn't feel like doing much at the apartment. I took my kid out for dinner. So I cranked it up the next day, Sunday, Easter Sunday, moving. And it was warm here. When it's warm, you sweat. Now, my forehead, my crown chakra, was literally on fire because my face had been burned, and now I've got beads of sweat, salty sweat coming into the burned forehead. I felt like I had a ring of fire just beneath my scalp. But I soldiered through it. I got a lot of stuff done. I got all the stuff out of the main rooms, which meant that Monday I could bring in the carpet cleaners. So I decided to go on Craigslist. And I'm like, I'll just try this guy. So I phoned him up. His name was Mike Whitmire. Mike, he had a voice like this. Yeah, man. Yeah, we'll be out there. What time? Yeah, no problem. Pet stains? Oh, man, I don't know. I can treat them. They usually don't go away. I'm like, all right, well, let's see where this goes. So this is on Monday. I meet them there Monday. They're late. They're about 20 minutes late, but they show up. It's this guy, Mike, and it's this other guy. And they bring these carpet cleaning trucks are large. So they bring the truck in. And they set everything up. They get the hoses. I live up on the third floor, by the way. So hauling all this stuff up and down 3 flights of stairs, not fun. They get up on the third floor. You get it all set up. And the battery that they use to run the machine to steam clean my floor is not charged. They did not charge it. So I said, listen, man, if you have a challenge here, I said challenge, because I don't want to say problem. I was being diplomatic. I was being, let's save some face for the inept carpet cleaning guys. I'm not going to use problem. I'm going to use challenge. You can overcome a challenge. A problem is your fault, right? This is my thinking. Because when you deal with people like this, you don't know. You don't want to, upset their frail egos. So I said, if you have a challenge with this, maybe you can come back tomorrow. Challenge? We don't have a challenge.
What are you talking about? 2 minutes later, yeah, well, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to jumpstart this pump. We'll have to come back. Okay, so come back tomorrow at noon. Okay. Yeah. Okay, man. Sorry about that. I'll take a couple dollars off your service. Great. So noon the next day, the guy does not show up. He doesn't show up to almost 1. And it's not Mike. It's the other guy. So I said, hey, you ready to go? He said, yeah. I said, listen, just call me in an hour. I'm doing I've got a client. Oh yeah, no problem. So an hour goes by, I don't hear from him. So I drive back down to the apartment and say, what's going on? He says, oh man, we had a problem. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. What's the problem? Oh, the spark plugs. Spark plugs are bad. I'm scratching my head. I'm scratching my scorched head. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. No, sorry, man. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know if it's meant to be or what's going on. And I said, okay, well, can you come back and can you get some of these stains off the carpet? He said, I don't know, man. I don't know about this carpet. So what do you mean you don't know about this carpet? I don't know. They might have to replace it. Oh, why didn't you tell me that the first day? Why didn't you tell me that the first day when you came out here? Because if that was the case, then I wouldn't have hired you. Well, I don't know. Okay, fine. Come back tomorrow. Come back tomorrow at 8 a.m. 8 o'clock rolls around, not there. 9 o'clock rolls around, he's not there. And this is a day I've got like 4 or 5 clients set up to do readings for. So I have to call somebody else. And I'm managing this while I'm managing my other life. And they come in, they actually do a good job cleaning the carpets. I'm happy, pay them, life's good, right? So now I'm staring down the home stretch. I'm staring down the home stretch of cleaning the apartment. Carpets look nice. So I'm cleaning the kitchen, I'm cleaning the bathrooms. And just to be on the safe side, I decided to take my shoes off. Because I don't want to track any dirt on these nicely clean carpets. That sounds like a good plan or good idea, doesn't it? I thought so. So I'm working on the refrigerator, and they've got these big glass shelves that you pull out. You pull out, and man, why is Adobe crashing? So I pull out the glass shelf, and I've got it set up on the countertop by the sink, and all of a sudden, it starts to fall. And I've got good reflexes. And I see this thing falling in kind of Neo-like fashion, right? Matrix-like fashion. And I stick my foot underneath it to stop it, so it doesn't hit the floor and shatter. Well, what it does hit is it hits my toe. And it's the corner of this damn thing. And it hits my toe, and it hurts like you can't even believe. And I'm just, the grind, the moon on the Mars on the moon grind is taking place. But I hit a switch in my brain, and I redirect the pain to some other part of my consciousness, and I soldier on. And I'm cleaning, and I'm moving, and I'm cleaning, and I'm moving. And all of a sudden, I look down on the carpet, maybe about 20 minutes later, and I see these little red spots everywhere. And I'm like, uh-oh, how did this happen? And then I look at my toe, and my sock was soaked through with blood. So now I've got to clean the carpets again on my own and try to use bleach to take the blood off. It's like I'm at the scene of a murder. And it was my toe that I killed. So I put my sock back on, 2 socks actually, and I finally get through it. Finally, I get through it. And then ultimately, I get all the stuff out of there. And now I'm here. I'm here with my new friend. So that's it. That's how this Cardinal Cross has been shaken up. Don't ever move during a Cardinal Cross. I wouldn't recommend it. And I knew it was coming, of course. I'm an astrologer, right? But I had no other dates in order to do this. This was it. It was either then or not. So sometimes, in spite of the stars, we have to move forward. We have to move forward. By the way, I just saw Cloud Atlas for the first time. What an amazing movie. I haven't even seen it all the way through. I've only seen about half of it. But that half that I've seen is some of the best movie making I've witnessed in quite a while. Speaking of movie making, we're going to get to the Cardinal Cross. We're going to get to where we are and where we're headed. But speaking of movie making, I have a video up on Gaiam. I have 2 more left from the last series of videos that I've done. And this one is on the many charts of Barack Obama. And I've never done a video more polarizing than this one. Now, what I did is a long time ago, when Barack Obama first hit the scene, I think it was my first post. You can actually find it on my website. Just type in Barack Obama. And you can see that that there was a chart there. I believe it was Lois Roden who did this chart for Obama, and she had him as a Scorpio rising. This is before the birth times of the semi-questionable birth certificate or proof of birth. It's not even a birth certificate. Loretta Fuddy. Interesting. Loretta Fuddy is the woman who was she was in charge of records, public records in the state of Hawaii. She's dead now. The woman who knew the mystery of Barack Obama's birth certificate is dead. And oh, by the way, she was a member of Subud. We'll get to that in a moment. But I did this video on Obama's birth charts, and I used the Lois Roden chart because when I saw that, and the subsequent charts for Obama became different. When I saw that birth chart, that to me made the most sense. So I was using Scorpio on the ascendant because Neptune would have been very close to the ascendant at the time of birth. And the one thing about Obama is that he has, excuse me, an extremely high level of projection that is associated with him. An extremely high level of projection. So, what does that mean? I'm sorry, I'm distracted. I have to turn Facebook off. What does that mean? Well, it means that with Neptune on the ascendant, the people will see whatever they want to see and project onto the individual. And I have done quite a few charts and lots of readings, and I haven't seen a lot of Neptune on the ascendant. It takes a real particular character to have this. I don't have a lot of Scorpio risings, by the way, that come through. I'll tell you who I have a lot of readings for. Cancer rising and Gemini rising. And the Cancer rising, I think, they're the canary in the coal mine. And this is recently. This is over the last few weeks. Cancer rising, they're the ones that have been feeling this Cardinal Cross energy. It's like, I need a reading. I got to sort some stuff out, right? Because they're feeling it. It's a sensitivity. Anyway, getting back to Neptune on the ascendant, he's had this almost Messiah-like quality that's been projected onto him. And so I thought, hey, Neptune on the ascendant, that really works. And it sets everything up for most of his major planets showing up in the 10th house. It's where his Leo energy shows up, 10th house. So it made a lot of sense to me. So I looked at that chart, did that chart, and then I did this other chart based on the
February 4th birth date of 1962 with the 6 planets in Aquarius, the Antichrist chart. And there are people that believe that that's the real birth date of Barack Obama. And I looked at potential fathers, Frank Marshall Davis, and I looked at Malcolm X, and who did I not look at? I did not look at Michael Rockefeller, who is another candidate for Obama's birth father. But the reaction to this on Diam's message boards is like off the charts, man. Or, I mean, some guy accused me of being Fox News. And I was like, well, take whatever you want. You know, and there was this one person who went to my website and found something on my website and like, you know, I've got an agenda or I'm hateful or, you know, and they use that as part of the comments. It's like, you know, whatever, screw you. You know, we all have bias. I'm sorry. All astrologers have bias, period, end of story. That's the way it goes. You name an astrologer and I'll tell you what their bias is. There are very few astrologers that are like a clear goblet of crystal with pure water in it. It just doesn't exist. Eric Myers, nice guy, very good astrologer, bleeding liberal, and he doesn't apologize for it. And that comes through in what he does. Theo White hates baby boomers. If you're over 50, watch out. Don't turn your back on Theo. Believes that they're the cause of all our troubles and ills, and once they're gone, the planet will sing and rejoice. Multiple circles, interweaving tapestries of ecstasy and hope, singing Kumbaya. The king is dead. Right? They've all got biases. What is my bias? I'll tell you what my bias is. My bias is I am tired of people being fucking manipulated. That's what my bias is. And I will look at the manipulation on either side of the aisle. I'm no Bush apologist, trust me. I couldn't stand Bush. I couldn't stand him. And he is as illegally elected as perhaps Barack Obama has been. What happened in Florida was an absolute travesty. I'm no Bush fan, trust me. I'm no Republican fan. What I am a fan of is getting to the bottom of things and sorting out the truth. And the truth of the matter is that the man who is in charge of this country right now has not done some great things. Trust me on that. And if you're liberal or progressive and you are still a Barack Obama apologist, you are living in a very different universe. In a universe that's based on a lot of culpability and codependency. I'm sorry. The most honest liberal, or the most honest progressive will look at this with an unerring eye and say, bullshit. This is not what we signed up for. This is not what was proposed to us. Perry Logan. Perry Logan is about as liberal as you can get. He's one of my Facebook friends. I've had him on this show. He does not like conspiracy theorists. He does not like libertarians. So he's not even close to being in my world. But I'll tell you what he does is he takes a truthful stance around his own party and Barack Obama, calls Obama fascist. So hats off to Perry Logan. That's the way it needs to be. Anyway, I don't have any bias. Well, I do have bias, I'm sorry. My bias is getting to the bottom of things. And maybe I have a 50-plus white male bias. I'll throw that in there. I'll be honest about that. But it's interesting reading the comments on that. It might be my most controversial contribution to Gaiam yet. Now, there's another chart that I'm going to look at, and I'm going to write about it. I'm going to write about it hopefully over the next 24 hours. And it is the chart of the founder of Subud. And I have found some mind-blowing connections between his chart and the chart of Barack Obama. I'm not going to get into them here. I'm going to write about them. They are so interconnected from a kind of a an astro-transgenic perspective, passing on the astrological genes, that I see this all the time with charts, by the way, that it's almost surreal how close the two potential charts are. I'll get into that over the weekend. I just thought it was fascinating to see this whole thing go down on Gaia TV. And as far as Gaia TV goes, who knows? Maybe I'll be back there at some point in time. But I still have a couple more videos on there that are coming. The next video, I think next week's video is the excuse me, is the astrology of the atomic bomb, and I think it's coming right in time for the anniversary of the first explosion, the first nuclear explosion at Alamogordo, Mexico, happening at 33 degrees. 33 degrees on the 33-degree parallel. And I get into some very interesting symbolism on the flags of both Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Don't want to miss that show. Not only are we coming up on the anniversary of it, we're coming up on the astrological anniversary of it. And when you watch the episode, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And then the following week, I think my last show is on. It was really interesting when I was at Gaia for my last time there. Everybody there is on a contract basis, and I had to ask myself, am I coming back here? Am I going to do this again? So I actually did my last show as if I would not be back there. And it's about the three essential aspects of astrology. And those three essential aspects, for me, in the chart are, in no particular order, Saturn, Chiron, and the true node. So I did a whole show on Saturn, Chiron, and the true node. And that will be in 2 weeks, which may or may not be my last show. I did it like it was my last show, and then, of course, I was told that my show was going to be put on hiatus. So maybe I was right. Anyway, that's what's going on this week at Gaia. The Obama charts, the mini charts of Obama, it's worth checking out. And I will do a follow-up piece, and that's going to happen over the next 24 hours, now that I've stopped moving. I do coach my Little League team tonight, though. So we'll have, in fact, we have 2 games in 2 days. The Little League team is on. It is on. All right, let me do this. Let me play a little bit of music here. Let me play some music. And I'm going to come back, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the Cardinal Cross and some interesting statistics associated with what happened in Ukraine and what might be happening in other parts of the world. I'm going to play a Bus Station Anywhere. This is from my buddy Mark Daniels, a.k.a. Charleuse. Maybe he's listening. Who knows? But this is Bus Station Anywhere from Charleuse. I'll be back in 3 minutes and 9 seconds.
Goodbye. Don't
That was Charleuse with Bus Station Anywhere from my buddy Mark Daniels, aka Charleuse. So I just wanted to pass along some information. I have a good friend who lives up in Idaho who travels to Kazakhstan on a semi-frequent basis. So he goes there, he hangs out, he's got family there. And he sent me a text last night via Skype from his cousin. And his cousin has said that what happened in Ukraine is starting to happen in Kazakhstan. So this is not over by any stretch. There is a major destabilization effort taking place around the former Soviet Union, around Russia. So they're going to try to kickstart a revolution in Kazakhstan. That's the next stop on the Democracy World Tour. Kazakhstan. Democracy. What a funny name for overthrowing and destabilizing governments. So I wanted to give you some facts here. Just money, because we know that the United States and CIA and NATO, they were behind the coup in Ukraine, and of course the handlers for the job were Otpor/Canvas, Sergei Popovic and his crew. Revolutions cost money, big money. All those really cool-looking signs with the fists and everything, that costs money. Buying a lot of cell phones for people costs money. Training costs money. Paying off officials costs money. How much money? I'll tell you how much. United States, and this is from PolitiFact.com, a biased website, no doubt, has spent $5 billion. The United States has spent $5 billion to promote the regime change in Ukraine. $5 billion. And they've given Ukraine another $1 billion on the back end of that. $6 billion. $6 billion for this little exercise in spreading democracy. $6 billion. Think about what $6 billion could do in this country. Think about that. They could take $6 billion and they could completely renovate all the former auto plants in Detroit and the surrounding area and turn them into massive grow zones for, genetically modified, free genetically modified, not genetically modified fruit, but free from genetically modified organisms, organic fruit. They could take it, they could retrofit all those former auto plants and turn them into massive grow zones. They could have people working them, giving them jobs, creating good food, sending it into other parts of the inner city, upping their nutrition intake, getting them off the crap chemical diet that they have been forced to eat due to its affordability and the cultural inculcation of eating such foods. $6 billion could do a lot, but no, it goes out there to destabilize Ukraine. And by the way, now we have American troops in Poland. So this thing is getting turned up notch by notch by notch by notch by notch. And I firmly believe that this is part of the massive energy of this Cardinal Cross. We can see all these different points on the Cardinal Cross. The Uranus and Aries piece, that's war. The Second World War started with Uranus and Aries. The rise up and the buildup of the Third Reich started with Uranus and Aries. So there's a war that took place. And then eventually it got more pronounced when Uranus was in Taurus.
And then what do we have? We had once the war was over, we had the start of NATO, which is a Uranus and Taurus, all about boundaries and borders and all that stuff. Uranus and Taurus development. So here we are again, Uranus and Aries, and the war machine is cranking up. Now, what's interesting about the war machine now is that it is invested in regime change. Regime change. I saw an amazing documentary on the Rothschilds, 60 Minutes, brilliant documentary on the Rothschilds. They've had their hands and fingers in every single war since the 1800s. They back both sides. They back multiple sides, especially during some of the wars in Europe, the Napoleonic Wars. There were countries like Bavaria or Belgium or Liechtenstein or whoever that didn't want to get into the war, but they had to, because if they didn't, then they couldn't defend their sovereignty. They couldn't defend their assets. So while you had a few countries like Prussia gearing up for war, buying bonds or borrowing money through buying bonds from the Rothschilds, these other countries had to do the same thing, or else they would have been steamrolled. They were defending themselves, and to defend yourself, you need armaments, you need soldiers, you need the tools, the hardware of war. So the Rothschilds funded everything. Everything. They funded Hitler. They funded the United States. They funded Russia. They funded all. And whoever wins, guess what? That's who they're beholden to. But it doesn't matter if you win or lose. You still got to pay that money back. You still have to pay and reparate the loans taken out to the Rothschilds. So now what we have is, instead of out-and-out war, we have regime change that costs $6 billion. It's a soft war is what it is. Soft war. And who do you think the United States is getting the money from? Who do you think? Because we're broke. They're broke. So we borrow the money from a central bank, likely, and then that money gets shipped over to Ukraine's now operating central bank. Isn't that interesting? And how much of that actually goes into the infrastructure of Ukraine versus going, so it's just moving money around. But who has to pay it back? If you pay taxes, raise your hand in the air. Like you just don't care. That's what you got to do. You have to pay it back. So this is the big shell game now, right? This is the huge shell game. You borrow the money for regime change. That money, central bank money, and then once that money goes away, and I don't know too many regime changes that weren't successful, with maybe the exception of Egypt, because they had to do that twice, and I think the second one was probably pretty organic. Then what happens? The country is broke. Then they borrow money. It goes into their central bank. So the same people that lent you the money, you send that to the new country, that goes into their bank, which is owned by the people that lent you the money. And oh, by the way, they need to be paid back. So they're getting the money twice. So let's just say now they're getting $5 billion plus $1 billion. So the $5 billion gets paid back, theoretically, with interest, by the way. So let's just round that off to $6.5 billion. And then they get $1 billion back. Make it so. Do you see how this works? It's a total shell game. These people are making money coming and going. Win, lose, or draw, it doesn't matter. If we want to be free, we must liberate ourselves from the central banking system. There can be no doubt about it. There needs to be a different banking system set up. A banking system that is much, much more fair and outside. There is a state in this country that does not belong
to the Federal Reserve. It's North Dakota. If North Dakota can have its own bank, then the other states can have their own banks. This is what we need. We need 50 banks in this country. Now, granted, some banks may have more money than others. But what it would do is it would take us out of this parasitocracy known as the central banking system.
Shall we look at the stars? Just sort of $6 billion. Keep that in mind when you think about these things. All right, let's find out where we are astrologically today. Let's look at the stars. Let's look at the stars. This is my Louis Turri impression. You know, he's Nostradamus. We got the sun at 5 degrees Taurus, Mercury at 4 degrees Taurus. What am I talking about? I'm talking about money. Money, money, money. The moon is at 20 Pisces. Very poetic moon. Venus, we have a Venus-Moon conjunction today. Wow, that's nice. That's very nice. By the way, I had a nice Skype session from my bathtub last night. Maybe that I was tapping into the Venus-Moon conjunction. And out of this, I decided to come up with this idea called Tub Talks. You know TED Talks, right? I'm thinking of doing Tub Talks, where leading agents of transformation and change take a bath and talk to you directly about their lives and their thoughts. Because I think the bathtub is an incredible medium. I think the bathtub is highly underrated. Tub Talks. Jupiter is in Cancer, 14 degrees. It is in wide trine right now with Venus. Saturn is at 21 degrees in Scorpio. Neptune at 7 Pisces. Uranus 13. Lucky 13 Aries. Pluto 13 Capricorn. So we're still coming into the energies a bit here with the Grand Cross, although Mars has backed off a little bit since it is retrograde. How have the Grand Cross energies been for you? I think they've been life-changing for many people. Birthdays today, Al Pacino, his birthday today. Has anybody seen Devil's Advocate, by the way? If you've not seen Devil's Advocate, I highly, highly recommend it. It's one of the best hidden in plain sight movies you'll ever see about the satanically controlled network that is permeating this planet. I highly recommend it. And there's a sub-narrative inside of that film. And the sub-narrative is the character that's played by Keanu Reeves. His name is Kevin. He's a lawyer. He grows up in the South, and he does not know his father. I believe that the sub-narrative is about Bill Clinton, who grew up in the South, became a lawyer, does not know his father. Now, there are people in Arkansas who will tell you point blank that his dad is Winfred Rockefeller. So who might be the devil? But this is, I believe that's the subtext or the sub-narrative of The Devil's Advocate. Very good movie. There's another movie, 6 Degrees of Separation, and stars Will Smith. And there's a scene in there where Will Smith talks about being a phony. And he's reading from Catcher in the Rye. And, of course, that's the main theme of the book, is being a phony. I believe that character in the 6 Degrees of Separation is actually in the movie, and I know it's a real story. but I believe in the movie it's loosely based on Barack Obama. One man's opinion. Jack Ruby, born today, it's his birthday. Of course, Jack Ruby, the guy who decided to take out Lee Harvey Oswald. And Jacob Leon Rubenstein is his actual birthday, from Chicago. Of course, Chicago crime comes from Chicago Crime Syndicate, Chicago Mafia. That's what he was associated with. Another birthday today, the newsman Edward R. Murrow. It's his birthday. And Paul Mazursky, one of my favorite and underrated film directors. It's his birthday today. And let's see, Vladimir Zhirinovsky, it's his birthday. Speaking of Kazakhstan, he is the head of Kazakhstan. It's his birthday. Ella Fitzgerald, a great Taurus singer. A lot of great singers born in the month of Taurus. Barbra Streisand, no matter what you think of her, an amazing voice. Stevie Wonder is a Taurus. Andy Bell from the group Erasure. It's his birthday today, and today is also, I believe, Cher's birthday. Is that right? No, it's who's it? Cesar. So it's Sonny Bono's daughter, Cesar Bono. That was Cher. Cher is a Taurus too. Cher is a Taurus. So what do we have to look forward to? Well, we have this upcoming eclipse on the 29th. Let's check that out. Let's get a read for the energy on the 29th. This year is going by very fast, isn't it? It's just galloping right through the days here. So let's see, we have the 29th and May 29th, April 29th. There it is. So we have the solar eclipse and the new moon in Taurus. We also have Mercury in Taurus and Venus in Pisces at 25. Mars in Libra at 11. Mars, of course, continuing to go backward in its retrograde arc. Jupiter at 14 degrees in Cancer. And we know where the big players are. 7 degrees. This is the highest degree of Neptune yet since it's been in the sign of Pisces at 7 degrees. And it goes retrograde. It goes back this year. So Neptune creeping still in the first decant, but up at 7 degrees. What can we expect during the solar eclipse? I'll tell you what we can expect. We can expect some heavy-duty action with the planet in terms of Earth, geophysical action. Look for volcanoes and earthquakes. Look at Yellowstone. I need to do a chart for Yellowstone, for when Yellowstone became a park. That'll be interesting. Maybe I'll do that in the next couple days. But keep your eyes on Yellowstone because we are dealing with an eclipse, right? We're dealing with an eclipse, and the eclipse is in Taurus, which is Earth energy, very powerful Earth energy, and the new moon as well. So things are going to be cranking up, absolutely cranking up. Now Saturn will not be opposing the Taurus sun until later. Actually, it'll happen in May. Keep your eye on that opposition as well. That's going to be the 11th of May. Now, some people, I don't know, maybe some of you have heard about the American Spring. Have you heard about that? Anybody out there heard about that? That's supposed to take place on May 15th. Now, astrologically, it's quite interesting because that's when the moon is in Scorpio. It's a Tuesday, and it'll be in direct opposition with the sun in Taurus. So we're talking fixed energies, very, very powerful fixed energies. That's the full moon. And then Saturn at 19 it won't be exactly opposite, but it's close. I mean, it's within
a 5-degree orb. So there's going to be a lot of very polarizing energies taking place on the 15th of May. And, you know, when we're looking at Scorpio, what are we talking about? We're talking about other people's money, lending institutions, bonds, insurance companies. Insurance is closer to Capricorn, but there are aspects and components in insurance. By the way, the market took a big dump today because of the purported troop buildup in Ukraine. So we've got some interesting pieces here that are now starting to pile up. Taurus is hard assets. Taurus is other people's money, or your own money. We're coming into this pretty major opposition here, starting in May. And looks like it's peaking right around the 15th on the full moon, which is what some people have termed the American Spring. And the American Spring, theoretically, is the beginning of the war on the American public for assets and land. We're already seeing this in Nevada with the whole Bundy situation. That's taking place. And we're starting to see the BLM get very heavy in Oklahoma. In the state that I live in, the Attorney General, Greg Abbott, who is running for governor against the Illuminati candidate, Ms. Davis, he basically said to the BLM, come on down and try and take our land. Texas is a problem for the United States, or for the corporation of the United States. It is a big problem because there are a lot of guns here, and there are a lot of people that are not afraid to use them. So they're going to have to do something with Texas at some point if they want to be able to have their North American Union or wherever they want to take this thing. And you can see what they were doing last year. When I saw this clearly, there was a lot of anti-Texas sentiment or anti-Texas press. It all started with Wendy Davis and the abortionists in the Capitol when she did her filibuster, and then they were just piling on. Anything that they could find that was negative about Texas went straight to the top of Yahoo's headlines. And the reason, it's the same thing they did with Russia, with the Sochi Olympics. They want to be able to massage people's consciousness and get them to think about something as evil or bad, so that when the hidden hand strikes, they, will say, hey, those motherfuckers, those assholes deserved it. They deserved what they got. It's the oldest trick in the book. Oldest trick in the book. And it didn't start with Saddam Hussein and nerve gas and the babies. That was just the latest stop along the propaganda tour, the disinformation tour. But that's how it gets started. If you want to see where shit is going to go down, you just look at where the news is coming from and what they're talking about and how they're bad-mouthing a leader or a country or a region. And I'll tell you, and it won't be that far behind after that something happens, and then if that event gets blown up, and then you start to hear the sanctions. And once you hear the sanction talk, then war isn't far behind. When they get sanctions, what happens? Makes it harder for the populace. Makes it harder for the populace to survive. Makes it harder for the populace to eat. And when they can't eat, what do? They riot. They get hungry. That's what happened in Egypt. They raised the price of flour. So you want people to get to react. Just make them hungry. Anyway, we have the American Spring theoretically coming up on the 15th, and it is interesting for sure. opposition of the full moon in Scorpio with the sun in Taurus and Saturn kicking in as well. All right, well, I think that's going to do it for today's show. We've covered a lot of ground. If you're still on Biome, check out my latest episode, The Many Charts of Barack Obama, and keep your eye on the website. By the way, I have the hardware, the guts for the new website, which will be going up in the next week or so. So keep your eyes on that. We've got some big changes here. Big changes in the Robert Phoenix multimedia world domination tour. Really, I'm just trying to upgrade a little bit and have a more dynamic website. And I hope to employ some more writers besides just myself, make it more of a collaborative effort. All right, that's it. We're still, dealing with the Cardinal Cross energy a little bit, the back end of it. We're dealing with the back end of the eclipse energy, and we're getting ramped up for the next eclipse, the solar eclipse, in just a few short days. So with that, my friends, use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. It's good to be back. To be back with you. It's very good to play this little piece, this little vignette from Philip K. Dick, which basically says it all. I'll see you next week.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.